What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Lars of White Voids. Thank you so much for your time today. It's great to be able to chat with you.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. So we got this new White Void album is absolutely killer. It's coming out this March. Do you just want to talk about like how the making of this record was? Because I know it is kind of like, it's a collaboration between you and many other great musicians. Was there kind of like a preconceived idea on how you were making Anti, or was there kind of like a lot of improvising involved?
No, it was, the whole thing just started with, I was writing music for my other bands, and usually I don't write specifically for Borknagar or specifically for Solefald, which is my other bands. I just write music, and the songs just naturally fall into the different categories. It's like, yeah, this is a Solefald song, or this is a Borknagar song. But I found out I had quite a few songs that I'd written that didn't really fit into any of those categories. So I found out that the sort of common denominator of those songs was they were based in this like 70s rock vibe with a bit of like 80s new wave melodies thrown in. So I started writing new songs within that framework. And to be honest, I wrote all the songs before I sort of gathered the band, before I went out and found the musicians. But what happened after I recruited the musicians was all the songs, all the riffs, they kind of morphed because they're much better guitarists and drummers and bass players than I am, right? So when you get like a crude demo and you get these people, going at it with their skill sets, it just transforms into something a bit different. So that's how the whole thing came about, really.
Mm-hmm. So it sounded like it was almost kind of like a happy accident in a way, right? Like you weren't writing for your other project, so you just happened to have another project just like secretly like telling you we need to make this happen.
Yeah. It's kind of, the music made itself before I was aware that this was a different band, at the same time, when I sat down and I listened to these songs and I found out that fucking hell, I'm gonna do this, like a 70s project with that sort of 80s vibe to it. It was such a liberating, feeling, getting to channel all my childhood memories of these genres, into my own band. And I've continued to do that. I mean, we're still writing. I've written all the songs for the next album already. I mean, it's really fun to work with this kind of basic structure and material. So it's kind of a gift that keeps on giving. This whole genre mix works really well for us, I think.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that this could open up new ideas on how you apply music into Borknagar and other projects, or do you think that this, like, do you try to keep every project separate entities in a way?
I mean, everything's connected to everything, I think. I don't think anyone can just separate stuff entirely. But I think one of the fun things about writing music for White Void is that it's more dogmatic than my other projects. I mean, I have this basic framework that I'm working with when it comes to these songs. And I think more than the music, maybe that approach when it comes to writing is gonna have some impact on how I write for Borknagar and how I write for Solefald. So I think it's more of an idea of a workflow and how you work within some set boundaries. I kind of like that, it's working within a dogma.
Yeah, and like with Borknagar, I mean, it's such a heavy the last record was True North, right? Yeah. So like, I remember listening to True North and like just being like, this is relentless. And then I listened to White Void, I listened to the first single, Do Not Sleep. I was like, this is the same band. You see like Corpse Grinder, he's in multiple bands, but they're all kind of like death metal. Isan is, mainly like has that black metal sort of vibe behind it. But you are like, are you going to do like a country band next or something like that? Or smooth jazz? You got to do something like Barry White or something.
Yeah. Do some proper, sweet crooner stuff. Yeah. No, but I mean, I think when I have the possibility to do stuff like this, I think it's fun to explore like different parts of your own musicality. And I grew up with a lot of different music, with progressive rock of the late 60s and early 70s, with the electronic music of the 90s and 2000s. I also grew up with jazz. And with just your basic rock and roll. So it's fun to explore different stuff, and just let your inner, 70s or culture rocker out, I guess.
Do you feel like the first singles that you released off of this album, such as "Do Not Sleep" and "This Apocalypse Is For You," could almost serve as like a good like representation of what all of Anti is going to sound like, or is that just one little taste of it?
Well, yeah, it's a taste, but it's also a pointer. I think that all the songs on our first album they're connected when it comes to the basic sound and the basic attitude. But there is still, huge differences from song to song when it comes to how, that connection comes forth. We have some slower songs, we have some more up-tempo songs, but the basis of all the songs is they have that sort of hard rock drive in the core of the song, and then there's the melodic side, the vocals and the melody that sort of comes from new wave, I guess, most of it. That sort of encapsulates that whole drive. So in that respect, I think the two singles are good pointers of what you're going to get when you listen to the whole album.
Mm-hmm. And what I've always found unique is like, because this music is like, this is not an easy type of music to play. I feel like if you slightly botch a note, that like, people are going to hear it and you have to like redo the whole thing or something like that. So do you almost feel like people who may have gotten to know you through your other projects, do you feel like people are going to see like a different side of you, not just technically, but maybe personality wise, or expressing a different side of yourself?
Yeah, maybe, but at the same time, I think, at least as a vocalist, I always hear that, yeah, I heard that was you the second the song started, and I was like, yeah, because you recognized my voice. No, because I recognized the way that you construct your melodies. So I guess even though I'm always thinking that, yeah, this is completely different, but there are links to how I do things and how my musical mind is working in my other bands that goes over to White Void as well. That said, I guess the attitude of White Void is pretty different from that of Borknagar or Solefald. So in that respect, it's a new side. But everything's connected in a way, I guess.
Yeah, and being that, all of the other members of White Void are also in other projects too, I'd imagine that they also help bring in a lot of new stuff to the table as well. Like, I know you had like some ideas written and stuff, but they've helped you like elevate them or something like that as well, right?
Oh, very much so. It's like our guitarist, Eivind, he comes from like blues rock, so he's got a very bluesy way of playing. So one of the biggest differences between the demo and the final songs on the album is the way the riffs are played and the way the riffs sound. It's like he translated my ideas to proper bluesy hard rock playing in a way. So that would be an interesting thing to do at some point, just to release, one of the demos so people can hear the difference of me like hacking away on a guitar and his like really sleek, cool, bluesy hard rock playing.
Yeah, you might have something very raw, like what we got out of Nirvana's Bleach or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, as a vocalist, have you always needed to hear the music to come up with the lyrics? This is kind of like your overall songwriting process now, not maybe just to White Void, but like, have you always needed to like hear music to come up with lyrics, or has there ever been a time where maybe like a concept or maybe a lyrical idea could dictate the direction of the sound?
Yeah, it can happen both ways. With White Void, it was basically an idea of combining a concept that I already had, that I'd been thinking about for a long time, and a music that I'd already written, like the basis of. So I took those two ideas and I kind of merged them, and then there was some changes on the lyric side, some changes on the musical side to make things, fit, to make the pieces of the puzzle fit. But that came together like that. When it comes to Borknagar, it's often the way it works is I write the music first, and I have an idea of like the melody of the vocals, but then I write the lyrics, and then I have to listen to the music first and make, you know, the music dictate how the lyrics are going to be and how the vocals are going to, you know, fit together with both the lyrics and the music. So, I mean, there are different approaches when it comes to that. And also with other bands I've worked with, sometimes I wrote the lyrics first and the lyrics just ignited an idea when it came to the musical part. So I wrote the song out of an idea that I got from the lyric that I wrote. So yeah, it works in all kinds of ways.
Have you ever had like the best lyrics ever, but then they're always like one syllable over every like arrangement that is presented to you?
Yeah. Yeah, and I got to change the beat here to make this fit. You know, I've been there a few times.
Oh God, that's gotta suck.
Yeah, but also it's kind of fun, you know, all these small challenges. It's everything that, you know, forces you to think in a different manner. It's all learning experiences as well, right? So yeah, you learn to deal with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you always liked to leave music open to interpretation, or like do you try to maybe engage the listener into the lyricism as much as the music itself? Because you also want to make that count, you know?
Yeah, well, I always felt that a lot of bands in the hard rock and metal genre are underestimating their audiences. I mean, all the touring that I've done, I've met so many intelligent people that listen to this kind of music, people interested in literature and people interested in philosophy, and people with knowledge in history and political ideas and everything. So my idea for White Void was to make like a proper concept for the people who want to really dive into it. You know, make sure that there's proper stuff to be found in the concept and in the lyrics. But at the same time, you know, try to make the lyrics work on a superficial level so that you don't have to do that. I mean, I'd like White Void to be the band that, you know, you can hear a song and the song makes you want to grab a beer and just drink it and you know, listen to the beats and sing along to the chorus, and that's it. But also that if you want to, you can read the lyrics and you can really get a proper interest in the subject matter, which for White Void is absurdism and communion philosophy. So yeah, I really hope that this works on both levels.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, from what you're describing to me, it almost, not in terms of sound-wise, but in terms of concept-wise, very similar to maybe like Mastodon, because all of their albums are very conceptually driven, but they, you know, they reference elements of history, but then they also bring their personal experiences into it, and then, you know, they always like have these ways of expressing stuff both very literally and metaphorically. So I feel like White Void, I mean, I almost consider this like the thinking man's drinking music.
That's a good expression. I'm going to remember that.
Yeah.
Thinking man's drinking music. I love that.
Yeah. It actually has kind of like a poetic aspect to it. It kind of rhymes a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Well, I'm glad I could help with the slogan.
Yeah. You should trademark that before I steal it.
No, you could take it. You could take it.
Okay, thank you. It's going to be a t-shirt with that in about a week.
Oh, if you could just send me one, that would be great.
Perfect.
Yeah, and when you look at all the albums you made, whether it's White Void's Anti, or, you know, albums such as True North or Universal or something like that, is it almost kind of like a self-portrait or a representation of who you are in a way? Like, do you almost always look at them as like a reflection of who you are?
Yeah, all my albums are kind of like snapshots of who I was at that point. So it's funny what music can do in that respect. You know, when I listen to a song that I wrote 20 years ago, it kind of takes me back to who I was at that point, the way that I was thinking, the ideas that I had, you know, where I was at when it came to, you know, my environment, my feelings and everything. So yeah, they're like snapshots of my mental way throughout all the years that I've done this. It's funny how music works like that.
Yeah. In order to get like that musical inspiration, in order to like feel that creative drive, do you almost kind of like need to be in a certain place or be in a certain like element, or does inspiration sometimes strike when you least expect it?
I can just sit down and start writing. So it's just, to me, it's more a matter of just, taking the time to sit down and find my guitar and just start to play. I don't believe in that sort of divine inspiration that strikes you from above. I think just making good music is work. It's hard work, but it's also really rewarding. So it's the same thing with writing. I don't really believe in writer's block. I think you just have to force yourself to do stuff. So that's what I do. At least that works for me. So yeah.
I'm really glad to hear you bring that up. I was having a discussion about this with my tattoo artist one time, and she said, like, if I only tattooed whenever I felt inspired, I wouldn't pay my bills. And artists would sometimes say, no, you can't force it. You'll just create shit every time. I'm like, yeah, but you also can't do nothing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think you sometimes have to make a lot of things wrong on purpose just to find that one magical entity in yourself.
Yeah, I think you can work yourself into inspiration. I mean, it's not like you have to be inspired when you sit down, but if you sit down and if you start working, and if you're working in a proper manner, you come to a place where you get that spark, where you get some inspiration, where you get, that small idea that grows and becomes a big idea. So yeah, I believe that the way that, I mean, sometimes you're just naturally inspired, but I think some of the best songs I've written have been written by me just sitting down and working until I hit that spark. I believe that's the way things work.
Yeah, and like, there's always, like, I've always said, like, it actually, because I went to art school, I'm a painter, so, like, I went to art school, and, like, every year, and after summer, they'd be like, so did you paint this summer? Did you create anything this summer? And I heard people say, nah, I was lazy. No, I didn't feel any inspiration. Yeah. I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I understand that, some artists, they thrive off of either political turmoil or they thrive off of, personal experiences, but you don't, there's also a drive that a creative drive that I don't think necessarily needs to be attached to anything,
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, with art as with everything else, it gets better when you work at it. It gets better when you sit down and you work, churn, you work, and for every time you do that, you get a little bit better at what you do. So it's about that when it comes to writing as well. If you write a lot, you get better at writing. You get to know your system better. You get to know your quirks better. You get to recognize the stuff that you have a tendency to do that doesn't work, and also the stuff that you have a tendency to do that you want to enhance that really works.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think hard work. Don't underestimate hard work.
Yeah, and it's like a relationship. You have to, like, interact with it and communicate with it. If you just put it off, it's gonna fade away.
Yeah, right.
Yep. And the final question I wanted to ask you is the most difficult question of the whole interview. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
How do you know when a song is done?
You don't. You just decide when it's done, because it's never done. It's the same thing with mixing. You're never done mixing. I mean, you can mix forever. But at some point, you just have to put your foot down and say, okay, that's it. Now this is done. Now I move this to mixing, or now it's done mixed. Now we move it to mastering. It's that's hard every time. That's always hard. But you just got to do it, because if you don't, you'll just work on the same stuff forever.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that is true. And I've had a couple of conversations about this. It is almost kind of like a discipline, like that. Yeah. Like either knowing when to finish a piece of art. It's just like knowing the theory, or just like knowing really how to play, or how to tune, or what key, or whatever. Knowing when it's finished it could be an instinctual thing, but I also think it really needs to also be a discipline.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you just have to decide that that's it. Now I have to leave this, and now I have to move on to other stuff. Okay, now this has been mine up until this point, and now this is everyone else's piece of art. That's what it feels like when you release a song as well. It used to be my song, but when it's out there, it's not my song anymore. It's everyone else's song, and I have to move on and make something new.
Yeah. The famous saying, when you put a song out, it immediately becomes theirs.
Yeah, it's really like that.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed this conversation. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote for any of the projects that you're involved in terms of live stream performances, new merch? I know that Anti is coming out March 12th, right?
Yes, it is. It's coming out March 12th, and hopefully when this whole COVID thing blows over, we're going to go on tour with White Void as well. So if things work out the way I hope they work out, we'll see you guys next year.
Yeah. Can you bring White Void to the States, please?
I'd love that, I'd love to do like a double gig thingy with Borknagar and White Void. So yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed that we can do something like that.
Well, with White Void, I'll be honest with you, and I mean this as a compliment, but it's such like, I really just, again, it's the thinking man's drinking music. I just want to see you play at like a very classy bar. Like I want to, and maybe we could do it at the same time. You play at like a very classy bar at like 7 p.m. I'm having a nice cocktail. Everybody's watching you in suits. Then you take Borknagar to St. Vitus and then just decimate everything.
Yeah, I'd love that.
That'll be a really cool idea. Let's see if we can make that.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do that. That's a deal.
Yeah. All right. I've had to do 3 interviews at 3 separate gigs at like 3 different boroughs before, so it's possible.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I'd love that.
All right. But thank you so much, Lars. Everybody, we are here with Lars of White Void. Be sure to check out Anti, coming out March 12th. Be a nuclear blast. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.